Erev Tov Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Terumot. We're up to Perek Yud Aleph Mishnah Aleph. Today's Mishnah should be Leirim Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbai and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Menuchatam Began Eden. Amen. We know as a rule it is forbidden to destroy Terumah or cause it to go to waste. So today's Mishnah is going to discuss a number of things that may not be done with Terumah because of this prohibition. And just as an introduction to understand today's Mishnah, the Mefarshim tell us fish fat, which was used as a condiment, was often flavored with figs. The person would soak figs in the fat for some time, and then he would squeeze the figs to release their juice into the fat. Once this was done, he would throw out the figs and eat the fat. The Mishnah, now that we know this, the Mishnah says, "En notnim devela ugorgaot letoch hamuyas." One may not put pressed figs or dried figs of terumah into fish fat in order to flavor the fat. Why? Because like we said, once the figs release their flavor, one usually discards and thus destroys the figs. Therefore, you may not use terumah figs for this purpose. Now again, the Mefarshim tell us that the Mishnah is referring to a person who's following the standard procedure of throwing out the figs afterwards. If he would eat generally what they would do is they would extract the juice and then discard the figs, and that's considered a waste of the figs. However, if a person eats the figs and he doesn't discard them, he would be allowed to use it to flavor fish fat. But the Mishnah says in the general practice where they would throw out the figs, you would not be allowed to use it to flavor the fish fat. But one may put wine of terumah into fish fat because the wine is left in the fat and eating with it, it's not destroyed. And the Mefarshim explain that if fish fat was watery and it lacked flavor, people would put wine to improve its taste. Now, although the wine is not being drunk in the normal manner, it adds flavor to the fat, and flavoring a dish with wine is a perfectly acceptable use of the wine. The Mefarshim say it is not considered destroying the wine. If, however, the Rav says the wine would not add flavor to the fat, but it would be used just to counteract, let's say, the foul taste of a low-quality fish fat, that would be considered destroying the wine, and that would be forbidden. And the Mishnah continues with other cases. Ve'en mefatemin et hashemen. One may not perfume terumah oil by soaking spices in it, and the reason for this is because the spices absorb some of the oil, and since the spices are eventually removed from the oil and thrown away, the terumah oil absorbed in the spices will go to waste. Aval osin et hayayin yen nomlim. But one may make wine of terumah into yen nomlim, which the Rav says is a beverage of spiced wine, by flavoring it with honey and pepper. Now, although the honey and pepper are going to absorb some of the terumah wine, in this drink, the honey and the pepper remain in the wine and they're consumed with it. Therefore, none of the wine is wasted. The Mishnah continues, "En mevashlim yain shel terumah mipnei shuma mito." The Tana Kama says one may not cook terumah wine because by cooking it, he reduces it. Why? Because since when wine is cooked, some of it evaporates, the Tana Kama says this is considered destroying wine, and that would be forbidden, because again, it's wine of terumah. Rabbi Yehuda matir. However, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with the Tana Kama. He permits a person to cook wine of terumah because by cooking it, he improves the wine. Since cooking improves the overall quality of the wine, it's considered a constructive use of the wine and not a waste, even though some of the wine is lost. And the Rab says, why is it improving the wine? Because cooked wine lasts longer than uncooked wine. However, the Rab does tell us, and the halakha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda, and a person would not be allowed to cook terumah wine. And that is in Rabotai Mishnah Aleph. Mishnah Bet now discusses the status of the juice from terumah fruits. Devash timarim. If a non-Kohen unintentionally consumes honey from terumah dates, which literally is the liquid squeezed from dates, the Torah refers to this liquid as honey. The yen tapuchim, cider from terumah apples. The chometz sitvaniot, vinegar from terumah winter grapes, which the Rav says grapes usually ripen in the summer. Grapes that grow slower and do not ripen until the winter, they're of poorer quality, and their juice is made into vinegar rather than wine. Ushal kol me perot shel terumah, or any other fruit juice from terumah fruit. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev keren v'chomesh. Rabbi Eliezer rules that this non-Kohen is liable to pay the principal, which is the value of what he drank, and the extra fifth, which was just as if he eats terumah fruits, he would have to pay the penalty and he would have to pay the value and the fifth. Same thing here. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer says juice of a terumah fruit has the status of terumah just as the fruit itself does. And the Mefarshim explain all fruit juices besides wine and oil. Why? Because wine from Terumot grapes and oil from Terumot olives, they have the full status of Terumot according to all opinions. Because now we're going to quote Rabbi Yoshua Poter. Rabbi Yoshua exempts the non-Kohen from paying the fifth, because in Rabbi Yoshua's opinion, fruit juices do not have the status of regular Terumah, and the fifth is a penalty that is added only when a non-Kohen eats food that has the status of ordinary Terumah. And the Mefarshim explain Rabbi Yoshua's opinion that Rabbi Yoshua holds that the Torah doesn't consider the juice of a fruit to have the same status as the fruit. Now, although the juice comes from a fruit that is Terumah, the juice is not ordinary Terumah, it's more of a lenient type of Terumah. So like Terumah, the juice cannot be consumed by a non-Kohen. However, if a non-Kohen does drink the juice unintentionally, he's required to pay the value of what he drank because he drank juice that belongs to a Kohen. So therefore he must be repaid the Kohen. But he doesn't have to add the fifth penalty. Now the Mishnah continues. It considers the status of these juices regarding the halachot of Tumah. Here too, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua disagree. Rabbi Eliezer mitameh mishum mashkeh. Rabbi Eliezer considers date honey, apple cider, vinegar of winter grapes, and all other fruit juices to be tameh as a beverage, meaning they're subject to the halachot of Tumah beverages. And the Mefarshim explain a number of Tumah halachot apply to beverages. They can become tameh, for example, if they're touched by a tameh object. And if a beverage is tameh and it touches other food, it makes the food tameh. And in addition, no food can become tameh unless it has at some point become wet with the beverage. Rabbi Eliezer holds that all fruit juices are considered beverages, and therefore they are subject to these halachot. Amar Rabbi Yoshua, but Rabbi Yoshua challenged Rabbi Eliezer. He said to him, "Lo manu chachamim shiva mashkim kemuneh fatamim." The chachamim did not list 7 beverages like peddlers listing spices, meaning the Mefarshim explain the Chachamim in Masechet Machshirin chapter 6 Mishnah 4, they gave a list of 7 specific liquids that are subject to the laws of Tumah, which are dew, water, wine, olive oil, blood, milk, and bee's honey. They did not leave some liquids off the list, just as a spice peddler might announce only some of the spices he has for sale, meaning the Rav says, what's the comparison to the peddler? A peddler calls out the produce that he has for sale. However, he doesn't necessarily announce all of his merchandise. He might very well have other goods that he doesn't mention. So same thing here. Rabbi Yeshua is saying, Chachamim are not telling you 7 liquids that they happen to say while there's other liquids on the list. Ela amru, rather the Chachamim said, Shiva mashkin tmeim. When the Chachamim said 7 beverages are tameh, they meant specifically those 7. Ush'al kol mashkin teorin, and all the beverages are tahol. Therefore, date honey, apple cider, vinegar of winter grapes, and all other fruit juices, which, with the exception of olive oil and wine, according to Rabbi Yeshua, are not among the, well, obviously they're not among the 7 beverages listed by the Chachamim, but Rabbi Yeshua says, therefore, they are not subject to the laws of Tum'ah. And the Rab tells us, V'alakha Rabbi Yeshua, the Halakha follows the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, that only these 7 specific liquids of the Chachamim counted in Masechet Machshirin chapter 6, Mishnah 4, only they are subject to the laws of Tumah beverages. And again, just to end off with the list, dew, water, wine, olive oil, blood, milk, and bee's honey. That is in Rabotai today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.